sun is shining, and it's a good-looking Friday. Welcome to the Sportsline Podcast here on CHCH. I'm Bubba O'Neil. As we know, sports in Southern Ontario is our focus, but folks, it is hard to dispute that there's nothing like the National Football League postseason. So let that be our focus on this podcast. As we did last week, we brought in Hamilton's graduated legend, Simoni Lawrence, to break down the wild card round. I'm going to do that again, sorry. Wow. The sun is shining, and it's a good-looking Friday. Welcome to the Sportsline Podcast here on CHCH. I'm Bubba O'Neil. Sports in Southern Ontario, always our focus, but folks, it is hard to dispute that there is nothing like the National Football League playoffs. So let that be our focus for this podcast. As we did last week, we brought in Hamilton's graduated legend, Simoni Lawrence, to break down the wild card round. So let's take it to the next level with this week's four divisional contest.
Baby.
That kind of greeting is because he's beating me right now.
Hey, I wasn't going to say nothing. I wasn't going to say that I only got one game wrong. I'm not going to talk about that, brother.
I got to throw something out. Before we talk any football here, I turned on my TV the other day. Are you selling houses now? Are you a real estate guy now?
I'm just a big fan of Michael St. Jean. I go there and he lets me talk to his staff and motivate them and get ready for the year. And I'm like, this guy knows what he's doing. Who else to bring into your office to get everybody ready than Simoni Lawrence? I'm like, this guy's going places. Shout out to Michael St. Jean. And that commercial?
Yes.
Oh, he'll get your house sold guaranteed.
Plug. There you go. You owe me there, Michael. Again, let's cruise before we get another question. On the serious here, the CFL winter meetings have been going on in North Carolina this week. One thing that I guess it's really not a surprise in some ways, but it did catch my eyes. And under questioning, head coach Scott Milanovich of the Ticats said that Bo Levi Mitchell is his unquestioned starting quarterback. Did that surprise you at all? In a space where there's always competition come the spring.
Everybody has to say that. I think you have to say that because at the end of the day, Bo Levi had a good enough season where it's like, yes, that's our guy. So what you want to do is give everybody clear intentions of what's going to happen this season. This is our leader, and the leadership position you need the most leadership out is quarterback. So everybody needs to know who to go to on the team, and he's the guy. He's telling all the guys, like, this is our guy, this is our star, learn from him, go through him. And you have to do that because right now when you look at the Hamilton Tiger-Cats, you're like, who's the leader over there? So when you're looking around, you're like, we have to declare a leader of this team. Even like the off-season players, like who do we reach out if we want to come play for the Ticats? So they're saying, hey, reach out to Bo. Bo's our guy. He's going to get this engine rolling.
Did you ever have to do that? I mean, when you were the undisputed starting weak side linebacker of the team, that the organization would maybe ask you or whatever that, hey, we're trying to track down someone that the player may contact you and tell me about what the Ticats are all about?
Not necessarily. I would think less with the organization because that would be like fraternizing and stuff, and like we don't really play like
free
that.
Agency.
Yeah. Well, if the player was with somewhere else, so what happens is like other all-stars like to talk to other all-stars and the players. Like some players would hit me up like, man, they treat you good over there. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, they treat us good. We got hot meals. We got gourmet chefs cooking it up for us. We get different food every single day. We get waffle days, and when we start winning, oh my gosh, you would think them steaks come from Prime Steak. Like they import the steak from Brazil for us when we get the win. And we went 12-3 that season. Oh, we ate so good, boy. So it's like, and then you got to look at the amenities that we have. Like a lot of teams come to play for Hamilton. Like, wow, you go over to Hamilton's field. It's amazing, and then the locker room is amazing. We got 6 cold tubs. We got 2 large hot tubs. Like, you got space. We got games all in the locker room. If you want to play golf, we just do everything to keep the players in there and want to play football. So it's amazing playing for Hamilton when you come and see the environment.
Well, the players in the Canadian Football League in that CFLPA, like it was like a kind of voting or
it was a ranking.
It was a ranking, yes.
Exactly.
And Hamilton were clear on top.
Yeah.
Saskatchewan a little bit behind, but boy, Hamilton were clear on top. And boy, you had places like Calgary saying that all they serve is cereal and bagels like 7 days a week.
Hey, that's low level stuff right there.
You guys are getting omelets and stuff.
Yeah, we get hot omelets. And then the thing about the omelets is they gonna make the omelets in front of your face, Bubba. We know where it's coming from. They going to be like, what you want? You want some of this on there? Shh. You want some of that? Sadesco does a great job for us. So shout out to Sadesco for sure.
Well, nice job there, Tiger Cats, because that was that survey. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, survey.
They did very, very good. All right, let's talk National Football League. Again, you went 5 wins. I went 3. Let's kind of go by. So you're 6-1 essentially, or 5-1.
Yeah.
I'm 3-3. Let's have a quick little review.
You're 3-2.
3-3. 3-3.
3-3. Okay.
3-3.
Oh man.
All right.
I'm sorry, Bubba.
Quick review. Stop. I'm being honest here. Quick review of what we did see last week. Texans 32, Chargers 12. We both got this wrong.
This game made me upset because if you look at the ebbs and flow of the game, we were actually right because the Chargers could have jumped out early, but they turned those touchdowns or those field goals into touchdowns. It's 14-0, but you get a young team like the Chargers that's motivated by a great head coach. They're going to come back and get the rally to take the league, and that's exactly what they did. Once they got the momentum, Chargers couldn't catch up.
Were you disappointed in the fact that Herbert, I think 3 interceptions all season long and then 4 in the game?
He looked like Sam Darnold out there. Maybe he's not ready for the spotlight neither, I should have did a little more homework looking at him and his background. The thing is, I knew Sam Darnold, but I didn't really check out Herbert. I thought they were a good enough football team where even if he made mistakes, they would be able to beat the Texans. But that showcased to be absolutely wrong.
What about the quarterbacking for the Houston Texans?
It was, what was impressive? I was sitting watching the game, and the way the Chargers were playing, they were like, all right, we're not going to let this guy beat us deep. So they dropped everybody, and they're only rushing 4. So I'm sitting there like, why isn't this guy running? He just needs to take off, and he got like 20 yards free because they're only rushing 4. The linebacker's already 15 yards over, and all you got to do is make one person miss. I promise you, as soon as I said that, he was taking off. And to your point, you said their running back was going to do great too, and that's what happened.
Well, I always thought if Joe Mixon could help them control the clock, that would certainly be a big factor.
For sure.
Later on Saturday, Ravens 28, Steelers 14. No surprise here, I think.
No surprise. We even said, like, hey, you could say what you want about the Steelers, but the Ravens just have too much power, And, Russell Wilson, he played a decent game, but it didn't permeate through the team. And the Steelers come off to slow starts,
You said that
the Steelers are a slow start team, and you can't keep tempo with the Ravens going against, like, if you start off slow. I think the Ravens jumped out on 14-0. It's already over because
Henry was a beast, and I think we knew that. I think we knew that he was going to be able to challenge that defense. But it's pick your poison, though, because you're going to have to respect Henry. I think every coach says it's basic football. Stop the run, right? But the problem is, there's that little sort of option stuff with Lamar, and that's a problem.
I know we're going to talk about it a lot for the Buffalo, but it's hard to stop because I'll give you what happens is when you're playing against the Ravens it's a read option. So the way you stop the read option is the defensive end has to crash down and get the dive from the backside. And if you do that, Lamar can pull it. Now he's free to go and he has one-on-one. So what you have to do is bring 2 off the edge. So you bring the defensive end to crash the dive, and then you bring a linebacker to get Lamar. But then it's likely catches the ball because then he's wide open in the middle. That's why I said the Ravens tight ends are so dangerous, and that's what they do. It's like pick your poison. It's a hard offense to stop.
Pittsburgh, just did they disappoint you at all, or
No.
what you expect?
I didn't think Pittsburgh could hang with them boys regardless. You know, I thought they were going to come in there and get beat bad. Like, that's what I thought was going to happen.
Well, I thought it was going to be 28-0. I thought there was respect that they actually scored a couple of touchdowns deep. Bills 31, Broncos 7. We both were all over this one.
Yeah, for sure. This game, I don't believe in rookie quarterbacks until they show me that they're not a rookie quarterback. You know, Bo Nix had a tremendous regular season, but I didn't see in no notebook you see him beating, you know, the runner-up for MVP.
You weren't frightened at all when they scored on their opening drive?
No, I that's beginner's luck. You know, like it's gonna get there, but it's all about momentum. And once they scored, the Buffalo Bills came and matched that energy right away. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So they got the momentum right back. So it's like, where you going, little kid? Get your butt back here.
Well, and I guess it is football. I mean, I said Bills 1991 learned from the New York Giants that especially the Bills, high-powered offense and Thurman and Kelly and Andre. If you don't have the ball, you can't do anything. And they had 42 minutes of possession. That's insane.
Yeah, that's how you win football games. You know, you control the game. You're like, it's my ball, can't nobody touch it. You see what I mean? So they did a great job.
Eagles 22, Packers 10. I'm going to start off with this one here. We knew that Love was a little banged up and injured, and he couldn't get anything going. Why we'll say this, though, the Eagles didn't impress me.
The Eagles didn't impress me neither, but I feel like that was one of those games where it was like, let's get everybody out of here healthy and let's just win the game, because the Eagles had control of the game the whole time. So they were looking at the game like, okay, let's not let Jalen Hurts feel like he needs to do too much. So they took the ball out of Jalen Hurts and they just did a clock management game, run the ball, and like they made a couple of first downs. Like, they didn't open up the playbook. This was a game where it's a setup for the next game. In that whole organization, they were like, we're going to beat the Packers. The Packers were dropping like flies. The only thing the Packers had was the running game, you know, and that wasn't sufficient enough, you know. So whenever you got a running back that can control the game, you can get the ball 25 times, and he's projected he got over 4 yards a carry. So that's going to take the tempo of the game. And I think that for the Philadelphia to going into this St. Louis game, they need to play way better, and I think they're going to open up the playbook. To your point, our buddy A.J. Brown was reading.
Okay, hold on a second here. Can you tell me? No, go ahead.
Bubba called it on the money. Bubba said, look, there's certain thing about the Philadelphia that's looking a little tricky. And you hit it there. I'm watching the game like, look at A.J. Brown with this book out because he didn't get the ball, talking about this is what I always do. I ain't never see A.J. Brown with no book on the sideline, Bubba.
Thank you very much, because in his post-game comments, of course, he was asked about what were you reading and why were you reading in the middle of the ball game. He says, I do this all the time. I work in television. I have for 30 years. And I know that if he ever was reading a novel, not a playbook, a novel on the sidelines, they would have spotted that. They're like 12 cameras at an NFL game. Someone would have seen that.
Bubba, he was fronting, Bubba. A.J. Brown was mad because he wasn't getting the ball. Because this is one of those games where it's like, A.J., just keep your cool. So he knew what was going on. So he got the book out there like, I'm not getting a lot of touches today, so I'm going to bring my favorite book out to read while Saquon taking all the thunder and lightning out of everybody. So it was one of those things where it was set up. But I do like the bounce back game. That's why I'm like very optimistic with the Philadelphia, because now AJ has to get his touchdowns, because we don't want to see him reading the book again.
That incident there, which I thought so interesting, because either he was sitting beside on the bench there, and there were two teammates beside him that spotted him doing what he was doing,
and they was looking at him like he was crazy, Bubba. Bubba, they was like, what's his crazy butt doing, man? Come on, man. Like you got to lock in, especially if you got that C on your chest. Mm-hmm. You got to lock in. That was low-level stuff. He shouldn't have been doing that.
I got to ask you this. I mean, again, you sat. You didn't sit on the sidelines too often. But have you ever seen anything like that in your days, playing days?
No. The most you see is somebody on the sideline talking to themselves. Like, I got to get better. I got to do this. You know, no, but if that's like me bringing if you're doing any kind of reading, Stay locked in, Bubba. You know, stay locked in. There's no way you can be that much of a head case where you got to read a book to lock in. That was, I don't know what kind of royalties he got out of that, but I want some too.
Yeah, I didn't like that look. I'm going to say that much.
Yeah.
Okay, Commanders 23, Rams 20. What a ball game this was.
Let's go.
The Commanders just, how do they continue to show such moxie in the end, late in the game, with a quarterback that's fresh out into the NFL? Daniels is unbelievable.
Yes, because the reason I said the Buccaneers was going to win this game, or the Washington was going to win this game, is because the Buccaneers not a team that could like take them out of the game right away. Like they can't shut them out like Detroit would be able to do, like score rapid points. They could keep the game close, and once the game's close, I go to, is their MVP better than the Buccaneers MVP? So I was like, I like Daniels over Baker just because it's a two-dimension and he has everybody motivated. So I was like, if this game stays close, the Commanders win.
I don't know. It's tough to feel sorry for anyone in this business. But, boy, I felt sorry because the cameras kept shooting them, especially after they scored a tying touchdown. Washington scored a tying touchdown late in the fourth quarter, previous to the Baker fumble, which was a tough fumble.
It is, especially when everybody knows what the matchup is. Everybody in the football world knows the matchup was Baker versus Daniels. Whoever has the better game, their team is going to win. And Daniels, like I say, like that's the true definition of an MVP, because you look at Tampa, you're like, they got Mike Evans, they got a running game going, they got this, that. But when you have an MVP player on your team, Daniels, similar to a Lamar, he's going to elevate everybody's game around him. And that belief system, there's something about believing in something, and when you're down, knowing that you can come back and win, that kind of, when you got that going in the locker room, you're always good because you don't got to hype the guys up.
Well, the proof has been in the pudding, and it's not just new. It's been going all season long with these last second, late fourth quarter comebacks. It's been outstanding.
Yep.
Monday Night Football in Arizona, of all places.
Like you called.
Yeah. Rams 27, Vikings 9. We split. We went different directions in this one. You were right.
Yeah. Yo, you just got to see it. You got to see it before you see it. We talked about, because we were talking about Russell Wilson earlier, and then I was like, if we're going to talk about that, you got to look at the Sam Darnold. He doesn't have any playoff history. It's just like beginner's luck running the table with a good Vikings team. But that Detroit game exposed them. I was like, all they're going to do is send +1s, blitz the quarterback, put pressure on him because he sees things. He's like deer in the headlights. And oh my, it's like I got to sit in the offensive play huddle with those guys. That was dangerous.
It was ugly. It was ugly. And here's another reason. And you can identify and tell me what happened here. Okay, we've never seen a quarterback get sacked 9 times in a postseason game. Was that a poor offensive line performance, or was that the quarterback?
It's the quarterback not knowing what's going on. Because it's like, how do you play a game where Detroit was sending +1s every time? When I say sending +1s, it means they're sending one more than they can block. And you as a quarterback, you have to be able to identify where that's coming from because you have a clock in your head. Like, this guy's coming scot-free, so I need to get the ball out in this amount of time.
To your hot guys.
To your hot guys, to your check downs, to something. It's like he was doing 5-step drops with guys blitzing, and he wasn't getting the ball out. And, you know, he was trying also not to make mistakes. Like, when you're a quarterback and you're supposed to perform at a high level with a bunch of, the number 1 receiver, Jeffersons, you have to find a way to be confident and let the ball out and just try to make plays. You can't play it safe. Not against a team that's like, hey, let's play football. Like, we're having a back and forth. Let's really play football. And he was playing it too safe. He was taking sacks. Yeah. Even when the game was ending, he was taking sacks. He just folded. It was everything I thought Sam Darnold would do.
It was everything you called. And I went, okay, this is why I went to the Vikings. I thought, okay, you're right.
Yeah.
There's a word in football called corrections, right? And exactly what happened in Detroit, that they were going to find, whether they threw in a tight end, an extra offensive lineman, or they were going to find some type of game plan. Also, I credit to what Detroit did, and you play defense, you understand this. They completely sold out.
Yeah.
When you go man on man and just send plus ones all the time, somebody's open and you could get burned.
Yeah.
And they went almost every single play.
Yeah.
But to their credit, well, that's exactly what happened to them. That's what the Rams did. And the Rams actually were a better pass rushing team than Detroit.
Yeah.
And they sold right out, and it was the same exact thing. I actually thought to myself, and I think I said it in the podcast, that I got respect for Vikings because they had to learn their lesson.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
They didn't, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So what they do, bring the same game plan over, they do the same thing to the Vikings. The Vikings just did not learn their lesson, and I'll be fair to the Vikings. In a week to prepare for a game like that, it's tough. Because those guys in Detroit not just beat them, they beat them up. So like they're like they try to pay attention to meetings, but their body hurt a little bit.
End of the season.
You see what I mean?
One last thing about this game, because this is the question that's going around the National Football League and all over, obviously, Minnesota.
Yeah.
3 things can be done here for Minnesota. You can cut Sam Darnold, full knowing you have J.J. McCarthy that you drafted in the first round, had an outstanding preseason, and was projected to be the number 1 guy, but he suffered a season-ending knee injury. So that's how Sam Darnold got his shot.
Yeah.
And as a guy that was a journeyman and then balled out with a 14-2 record until things fell apart.
Yeah.
So you could do one of 3 things.
Yeah.
You can cut Sam Darnold. You can franchise him and probably pay him about $30 million a year. Or you can keep him as your starter. What would you do?
I'm cutting him. You got a young kid that can do exactly what Sam Darnold done already. Like, Sam Darnold didn't do anything special this season. And the playoff game and the game against Detroit shows you that he's not anything special, where he can, like, take the reins of the team, and when everything's going bad, he can make it look at least good. So it's like, yo, you got a young kid that you believe in. Don't put that pressure on him, because you're going to stunt his growth as a player, too, as well. Because McCarthy's young, and if he has Sam Darnold where, I won 14 games back on his neck, like, at the end of the day, everybody wants to have a starting job. You got to let this guy McCarthy be the guy, say you're the guy, and let's push him forward, because he could do the same thing Sam Darnold could do, and he can also learn and be more mental tough than Sam Darnold, like the things that not to do.
Fair enough. To the AFC divisional postseason game in Arrowhead Stadium. They call it some other thing, but I'm calling it by the old names. Arrowhead Stadium, Saturday, 4:30. The hot Texans, coming off that big victory over the Chargers, facing the Chiefs, who have had a week off. And they're also motivated by trying to become the first team in National Football League history to win a Super Bowl 3 consecutive seasons.
Yeah.
Have at it.
This is destiny. Andy Reid's one of the best coach in the NFL, in my opinion. And when you have the best coach in the NFL, you're going to win games just off of being prepared for what's going on. And Chiefs are coming in fresh. They have, in my opinion, the best defensive player. That defensive tackle, Chad Jones was his name? Jones.
Chris Jones.
And I think that he's just a difference maker. He changes everything. And the Mahomes got to be looking around like, I ain't never had this much weapons. I got Worthy. That's a lot of speed. I got Kelsey. He could catch the ball over the middle. I got a possession receiver, D. Hopkins. This is going to get ugly for the Texans. I know the Texans are riding high and off that momentum, but the Chiefs have something to prove, and they're fresh.
Let's have a look at the board there, Mike. I think we both agree here. I think it's fair to say I think you, again, would only understand, and especially in your time playing in the Canadian Football League, what a week off means at this time of the year. Mahomes, I just think it's a talent thing here.
Yeah.
I will say this, if the Texans do beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium, you're looking at one of the monumental upsets of all time.
Yeah, and that's not about to happen in today's world. The Chiefs are so disciplined. It's not like they got a week off and they're a rookie team. They got a week off and they're the defending Super Bowl champions. You know what I mean? So, like, they know what to do. They know how to take care of their body. They know how to study the game, because they're not new to this. They're true to this. This is what they do. So I can't see Texans being able to compete. Does
it worry you at all? And I'm guessing really I'm going to answer, or you can answer my own simple question. the Chiefs were not a dominant offensive team this year. Defensively, this may be the best group that Andy Reid's had.
Yes.
Mahomes, I mean, he's not even in the MVP conversation.
Yeah.
Yet won more games this season than he has in any other year. How do you explain this?
Because people football's the ultimate team game, Bubba. And I get so confused sometimes when people are like, well, this part's not doing this part. It's called complementary football. You have to complement what's going on. If your defense is playing lights out, you're calling the game different as an offensive coordinator. If your defense is struggling, you're calling your team different as an offensive coordinator. Sometimes the Chiefs went into games like, our defense might not be able to stop this. We need to put out at least 35 points. Now the Chiefs know our defense is good enough where we just play our style of football. We don't have to take too many risks. We can just play simple team football. And that's why I say they're the best football team right now. They know how to play together. And that's way more important than having a high-powered offense or a high-powered defense. They know how to play together. The continuity is there.
Saturday, 8 o'clock, the Commanders in Detroit Rock City. Let's go to the board to face the Lions.
Yeah, the Lions might beat them by 30. I love the Commanders, but Detroit's one of those teams where they're a prove-it team. Like, they get in the phase of, I want to embarrass you. I want to show you that you should not be on this field with us. And I love Daniels and I love the Commanders, but they're not the Buccaneers. Detroit's going to come out swinging and they're going to finish swinging. There's not going to be no breaks in the game. It's just going to be like constantly, Bubba. And Detroit, they're gonna beat them, cover the spread, everything.
I think this is a game where the home crowd is just I think it's a factor.
Insane.
It's a huge factor. You have a starving fan base.
Yeah. Listen, I was out there watching the Detroit Buffalo game when Buffalo actually beat Detroit, and just the flow of the game, the fans were still in it, and Detroit still almost came back after getting dominated that whole game. It's just a different atmosphere that the Commanders are walking into that dome.
Here's a fair question, I think.
Yeah.
And it is, they say, you've heard this before, that sometimes, and I don't know if you agree with it or not, the team takes on the personality of the head coach. Mm-hmm. Do you see that in this team?
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you're all coming in as rookies, right? So it's prevalent when a team is coming in all new. Like Campbell got to grow these guys up. It's like he gets to put his stamp on these guys because they all coming with him. So he's like, yeah, this is how we're going to play. We're going to be risky. We're going to be physical. We're going to run to the ball. We're going to hit. And that's just what it is. So they definitely have his personality. And he'll get to fall back once he coaches another player to be able to put that into the player so the player can just put it into the other players. But right now, the personality is definitely Campbell.
When you played, you had guys like you had Ken Austin, you had June Jones. Mm-hmm. I personally, CFL or NFL, have never seen someone that is so willing to push the limit by going for it on third and in this case fourth down. It's not traditional to what the National Football League has been for 50, 60, 70 years. No one does this. Yeah. Does that worry you?
No, you respect it because it's just one of those things where you stay consistent to who you are. Last year it bit them in the butt, you know? Yep. So it's one of those things where this is who I am. This is how I'm going to win. I'm going to live and die on this sword. So this is what I do. So you can't be mad at it because that's just who he is. And that's how he calls the game. He's not like, maybe I should make. No, this is what we're doing, and we're going to continue doing that. And as a player, you understand that. So 4th and 1, let's go. 4th and 2, let's go. And the belief system is there because anything you practice enough becomes a habit.
I just feel like sometimes you got to get the points.
You got to get the points sometimes. And that's up to Campbell. I know who he shouldn't be playing. Hey, look, some teams.
I feel like he's sitting there playing Madden.
Hey, and a lot of people respect it because I'm doing the same thing playing Madden, Bubba. Hey. If you want to keep a lot of guys play it safe because they want to be like, hey, I did what I was supposed to do. I did the right thing. You just play it safe. But if you want to be a winner and go take something, you got to break the norm every once in a while, bub. You got to. If you want to be great, you got to break the norm every once in a while.
Let's go to the link. Oh. Sunday at 3 o'clock. Rams at Eagles.
Ooh, Bobby. Don't do that to Philly.
Yeah,
I feel you. I get you.
All right.
Tell us why.
Okay, here's why I like the Rams.
Eagles and Rams.
People are not going to like me for this.
Okay.
See that crest? They call it the crest, the shield.
Oh, yeah?
The shield. The National Football League, in my experience, which I would say I became a big Bills fan in the early 80s. I think, if I can say anything, the Shield love storylines.
Yeah.
They love storylines. What community is hurting more than any other community in the United States?
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Los Angeles. Wouldn't it be great to have the Rams be a great story?
Yeah, it would be.
It would be a great story for them against a team like Philadelphia, where it can be argued that they're not as good as their record.
Yeah.
They do have a wonderful running back in Saquon Barkley that, shoved it to his old team and basically almost could have broken an NFL rushing record. But to me, having Matt Stafford out there gunslinging, I could see this happen. I think, and again, the way they rush the quarterback is also to be noted, but there is something about that offense. Puka Nacua and Cooper
You're
Kupp,
not wrong,
they
Bub.
can be problems.
You're not wrong, Bub. And the thing the Rams did was what they were supposed to do last week to the Vikings, a struggling Vikings team. And the thing everybody's looking at, well, if the Eagles play like that, they play, the Rams play like that, the Rams are... It's not. It doesn't really make sense because at the end of the day, Philadelphia has one of the best defenses, and that defensive line is serious. And to be able to rush like that, the only reason they were able to rush like that because, first of all, the Rams got up in points, and the Vikings don't have a legitimate running game, so they were just speeding by, not even defending the run. You have to play Philadelphia way more honest with a Saquon Barkley because those guys aren't even on the same atmospheres as far as running back. And then it always starts up front, Bubba. I think Philadelphia has 1A best offensive line in the league.
I also look at, we just talked about Dan Gamble, that McVay is a bit of a, I know you've called him a bit of a whisperer, but I think he's a bit of a maniac too. I think he's like he's a football
I
can
guy.
see him kind of like a Gruden, like that all week he's just like, when he's by himself, he's like planning and like charting and like possibilities of like this happening, that happening, 3rd and 1, but like I could see him obsessing over this matchup.
And that's why I give it to Philly, because everybody got a plan until you get hit in the mouth. You're going to Philadelphia, baby. You're not playing in no dome. You don't got everything going the way you want. It's nice environment, no elements, nothing. No. Now when you get hit, you're going to feel it a little more in Philadelphia when it's a little colder, and you're going to have them fans screaming. Like, let's be honest, you're going to Philadelphia. The Philadelphia crowd don't care about a storyline, Bubba. They're going to say, like, they trying to have their team go to the chip.
But if their team isn't playing well, that crowd...
they'll turn on Jalen Hurts in a heartbeat. They already saying trade him. But and to our offense, Howie Roseman was watching our show. He watched our show last week, the general manager. So I got to go with my dog Howie.
All right, fair enough. We'll see. Now, I think it's like we were talking about this possible matchup for basically the better half of the second half of the NFL football regular season. Wouldn't this be great? Because everyone was talking. There was been a time of the year where it's like, oh no, Lamar Jackson is the MVP, and then there was like a section of the year where it's like Josh Allen is the unquestioned MVP in the National Football League. Oh my goodness, AFC divisional matchup, and they are meeting in the Below on a Sunday night, and it is going to be chilly. No snow, but it is going to be chilly.
Yeah.
Ravens at Bills. We did see a little hint of this. 35-10 in Baltimore, week 4. But I will say, I think both of these teams are completely different. On the injury front, the Bills didn't have middle linebacker. They didn't have their outside linebacker. Both their top tacklers, and they didn't have one of the best nickel corners in all of football, right? And Bernard, so like Benford, sorry, boy. I gotta go with the Bills.
I love you, Bubba, and I feel you. I think, first of all, I see what Vegas doing. First of all, the Ravens are favored to win in Buffalo. That's
it's
already
like 1.5 or
suspicious.
something?
Yeah. So usually when you go to when you play in the home game in the playoffs, they automatically give you 3 points. Like, yo, these 3 points are yours because you're playing at home and we think you're the better team. But to see that they gave the Ravens like 4.5.
Do you know what's weird though? On Sunday night when the Bills Saturday afternoon, when they had the matchup secured, the Bills were 1.5 point favorites, and then on Monday it flipped.
Yeah, but that's just everybody studying the environment, because I'm looking, you're saying the cornerback, the nickel, he's back, but that's not prevalent to the Ravens style of football. They're a 2 tight end football team, read option. The linebackers can help, but where I see why I picked the Ravens is because I'm a guy that believes it really starts up front. And I'm also a guy that thinks that MVP, and I picked Lamar Jackson for MVP. So I think that when you have the MVP on your team, he makes everybody better on your team. That's a true meaning of a most valuable player. He elevates everybody's game. The thing that scares me about the Buffalo is their interior. And they're going against not only Henry, they're going against Lamar Jackson.
You feel like they can be pushed around?
I think they're going to get bullied, Bubba, to the point where it's like the same thing I said. You got to send somebody to go get that dive, and then it's a pull, and then it's one of those games where the tight ends are going to be very prevalent. And then the other matchup is Ravens defense is better than the Buffalo's defense, in my opinion.
Really? I don't like their secondary.
I like their stars. When I I go to star players, right? It's like, who can make a couple of big plays? I can guarantee Hamlin is going to make a couple of big plays. I can guarantee Roquan Smith is going to make a couple of plays. I just think they have more playmakers on the Ravens. And in a close game, you need your stars to be stars. I look over at Buffalo, I'm like, okay, their quarterback's playing great football. But who else is going to be the stars when they need it?
That's exactly what I wanted you to say. The Bills, for whatever reason, and I've never seen this in all my years of watching football, have a star every week. The trading away of Stephon Diggs changed the mentality of that team, and I think has helped that quarterback in terms that he doesn't feel the pressure to get the ball to his main man. The Bills have 11 players that have caught at least 280 yards. And all of those 11 people have a touchdown. That means everyone's getting well. No one's getting favored. And for whatever reason, Josh has cut down the turnovers. In fact, the Bills as a team, 8 turnovers all year. You know how many possessions are in a single game. 8 turnovers all season long. Never been done.
Exactly.
And I think that's the difference, is because pick your poison, Baltimore. I know it is going to be nearly impossible to stop the run game of the Ravens. And it's going to be a battle of 2 teams wanting field position, and possession. Both teams last week had over 40 minutes. Right? They mirrored each other in the way they do their things.
The tempo football,
right? So to me, turnovers are going to be a thing. And boy, I don't want to use this, but I'm going to have to use this. Are we still wondering how good Lamar Jackson is against a quality matchup in the postseason?
We're not, because that's the MVP. He's confident and he's locked in. I'm so glad you said that.
He was the MVP last year.
I know, but that game got called a little funny in my opinion. I don't think their offensive coordinator did a good job.
Monken did a horrible job
calling the game for Lamar Jackson. This coach has Lamar, and they're on the same synergy. They get each other. They understand each other. And I'm so happy you talked about how Stephon Diggs going to start, and it gave more hope to Josh Allen, because Josh Allen's one of those guys where he's the star on the football team and he doesn't want anyone speaking over him. That's also a thing in football, right? You get enough personnel, everybody's like, well, the Ravens got more stars than the Buffalo. But that's the way Buffalo needs to have it, because they can't have anybody over at Josh Allen because it'll drown out his voice, So Josh Allen has the players that he wants to make himself the most successful, not necessarily the team most successful. successful. And when you get into games like this, the playmakers always win these games. You look at history, like you look at like all the playoff games when like a Jagger Davis comes and makes a big play, or like in the CFL, like you need your stars to play like the stars in these games, because I'll tell you, I don't want to call them regular players because nobody's a regular player in the professional football league, but the guys that just, chop wood every day, there's nothing they're going to do their job consistently. But when you got superstars like a Lamar Jackson and a Derrick Henry and a Hamlin and a Raquan Smith, it's just too much. It's too many guys that you can lean on and look for to make a play. So that's why I got the Ravens winning. And I
going into Buffalo on
going
a cold
into
Sunday.
Buffalo, and the Ravens are a Baltimore team. It's not like the cold is something that they're not used to. So and then I'm like, this is a tight end type of game, and I love, like I said, I love these Ravens tight end. I love Derrick Henry. I love Lamar Jackson. I think that the MVP will win this game.
There's a guy that never gets talked about in Baltimore that I think is really, really scary, and I think they have him listed as a tight end, but he's kind of one of those guys, all he does is deliver those whap blocks, like coming off the corner. I think it's Levi is his name, and he's like 295 pounds. He's there. He never catches passes. All he does is just blow up defensive ends. Like it's crazy what this guy does, and I think it's been one of the unsung sort of heroes to that running attack. So I mean,
the Ravens are just bigger, Bubba. Like,
they are.
When we watch this game,
they are bigger.
Just watch how much bigger the Ravens are than the. Then who we talking? Than the Bills.
Yeah.
Like I like we might get a little Giants episode maybe.
Then again, the bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Man.
So we're gonna see. Hey, great stuff. Great analytical look at things. Relaying some of your past experiences with what you do see today and what's going on, and breaking down some of these matchups. Really appreciate that. I would like to get some wins. I'd like to catch up to you a little bit, so we'll find out. So go Bills, go Bills. Again, this is an exciting time of the year.
Yeah.
I think there are some people that actually think the divisionals are actually the best time, best round of the playoffs.
It is, because let's be honest, like whoever comes out of like the AFC is probably going to get romped by the Chiefs because they're going to beat each other up, and whoever comes out the NFC, Detroit's going to beat them up.
Don't say that. Don't say that. I cannot take any more Mahomes.
Kansas City and Detroit.
I can't take any Mahomes and Kelsey and his girlfriend. Enough of this. All right.
Hey, I love you, Swifties. Don't beat me up.
Yeah, I bet you are a Swiftie. I bet you are. I can see it in your home.
She wears short skirts, I wear t-shirts, she's chill.
That's your Sportsline podcast for the day. And as you just seen and heard, we love talking sports, especially with this guy. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote, the Sportsline podcast do want to hear from you. Please smash that thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. And if you do have something to say, we'd appreciate your comments. And a reminder, be sure to check out all the other podcasts we have here on CHCH, as a weekly wrap-up of Trending Now with Louis B is due to drop in about hours, folks. For the outstanding people that make the Sportsline podcast possible, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.